What happens when officials who are entitled to keep law and justice become perpetrators of violence and corruption? Let's see some of the corrupt and unlawful DEA agents reacting to unexpected sentences. Number 1. First up is the case of Carl Force and Sean Bridges. Force entered a guilty plea in July to charges of money laundering, obstructing the court system, and extortion under color of official right. Ross Ulbricht, also known as the Dread Pirate Roberts, was eventually apprehended by the Silk Road Task Force, a massive multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional law enforcement operation that the former DEA agent based in Baltimore, Maryland, had been a part of. Ulbricht was found guilty on all counts on February 2015 in New York, following a jury trial. He is currently incarcerated for life. Bridges, who also pleaded guilty and will be punished later this year, was charged alongside Force. Although the Force-Bridges incident does not necessarily call into question the fairness of Ulbricht's conviction, it has made the entire situation much more of a circus than it already was, a feat that many believed to be impossibly difficult. Ivan Bates, a criminal defense lawyer from Baltimore, spoke eloquently during Force's sentencing hearing on Tuesday. He discussed Force's difficult upbringing, his broken family, his drinking problem, his mental health problems, the stress of his job, particularly the stress of having to learn about the Tor routers, and the passing of his father in April 2013. Carl Force III passed away shortly after Force established the Death from Above account and made an effort to blackmail DPR. Bates appeared to infer that this is when Force lost control. Carl Force was sentenced to 78 months in prison. Force spoke briefly in court while his chains clanked. "I would just like to publicly apologize to the American people, to the U.S. government, to my friends and family. I'm sorry. I lost it. I don't understand a lot of it. I apologize." Number 2. Next up is Jose I. Irizarry, who has done unlawful things because of his greed. The taste of a drug lord and a government employee's pay were a curse upon Jose Irizarry. Irizarry was a U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agent who enjoyed yacht parties with sex workers, Tiffany jewelry, Louis Vuitton bags, and expensive vehicles. Irizarry stole millions of dollars from the government to support his extravagant lifestyle, which included 3 homes, 2 Land Rovers, and a BMW. The DEA has suffered greatly from the stunning discovery that one of its erstwhile rising stars spent years acting as a type of cartel double agent, and other scandals plaguing the organization also show no signs of abating. Irizarry had access to DEA cash worth thousands or millions of dollars, as well as drug proceeds that the agency had recovered or was looking into as an agent. Even worse, according to David S. Weinstein, a former federal prosecutor in Miami, his fingerprints are all over dozens of arrests and indictments, the Associated Press reported in 2020. Irizarry, a bilingual agent who was born in Puerto Rico, started his career in law enforcement as a federal air marshal and a member of the U.S. Border Patrol. He was appointed a special agent with the DEA in 2009. Irizarry quit in 2017 after his employer grew suspicious and summoned him from Colombia to Washington, D.C. He entered a guilty plea on 19 federal crimes, including bank fraud and embezzling drug money, in 2020 after the authorities closed in on him. On December 9, 2021, he was sentenced to 145 months in prison by U.S. District Judge Charlene E. Honeywell in Tampa, Florida. During his last hours of freedom, he said, "You can't win an unwinnable war. DEA knows this, and the agents know this. There's so much dope leaving Colombia, and there's so much money. We know we're not making a difference. The drug war is a game. It was a very fun game that we were playing." Number 3. Next is the case of Nathan Cohn. For receiving bribes from a narcotics trafficker, the former Narcotics Enforcement Administration agent received a term. United States District Judge Brian S. Miller handed down a 135-month prison term to Nathan Cohn, 45, who is currently residing in Auburn, Illinois. A federal grand jury indicted Cohn in November 2019 on 1 count of conspiring to have heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine on hand with the intent to sell them, as well as 1 count of bribery of a public officer. He admitted to bribery in August 2021 in exchange for the drug-related charges to be dropped. Judge Miller ruled that Cohen accepted bribes from a well-known large-scale drug trafficker to aid in criminal conspiracy, and that the conspiracy involved at least 15 to 45 kilograms of methamphetamine during the 2-day sentence hearing. The drug trafficker testified at the hearing and said he thought Cohen had been giving law enforcement information that helped the trafficker avoid being caught while running his drug operation. The drug dealer, who is currently being held by federal authorities, said that his business was in charge of trafficking kilogram amounts of methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and marijuana. United States Attorney Jonathan D. Ross said that the defendant's acts are a disgrace to the thousands of dedicated law enforcement officers who work with integrity every day to protect and serve our communities. His greed and dishonesty have no place in law enforcement, and we are happy to see that this case has reached its just conclusion. Number 4, next up, Bradley Sosnowski. In connection with a road rage incident in Boynton Beach, former Drug Enforcement Administration and Secret Service Special Agent Bradley Sosnowski was charged with aggravated violence with a handgun and discharging a firearm from a vehicle. According to the police, he shot a 67-year-old driver who drove up to his car. Self-defense, according to Sosnowski. In 2020, Sosnowski entered a guilty plea to a federal misdemeanor after using his retired DEA credentials to breach security at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. He is physically challenged, according to his attorneys, and was attempting to avoid long queues. According to the court documents, Sosnowski is a former Marine who spent 7 years working for the Secret Service in the White House and protecting 2 presidents in addition to the DEA. He has experience working for the Naval Criminal Investigative Service and is a licensed firearm instructor who trains police units in tactical firearms use. He was charged with second-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and discharging a firearm from a vehicle. Number 5. Lastly, Fernando Gomez. Here's his case. One of the 10 defendants listed in a federal indictment that was unsealed in the Southern District of New York is 41-year-old Fernando Gomez. Gomez is accused of having guns in his possession as well as taking part in a plot to distribute cocaine. He started working as a detective for the Evanston Police Department in 2004 and left to work for the DEA in October 2011. According to authorities, Gomez joined the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency to aid the drug conspiracy in Puerto Rico that he had begun supporting while a police officer in Evanston. La Organización de Narcotraficantes Unidos, a vicious Puerto Rican drug gang, is involved in the case as a racketeering enterprise involved in drug dealing and murders, according to federal officials. The other La ONU members were also accused of different crimes related to racketeering, drug trafficking, murder, and guns. The indictment lists other murders that our narcotics group is accused of carrying out. Assistant U.S. Attorney Abigail Peluso argued for Gomez's detention by claiming that he has been using a position of power to evade law enforcement. If found guilty, he would be sentenced to a minimum of 20 years in jail and a maximum of life. For his part in a 10-year narcotics operation that entailed smuggling thousands of kilograms of cocaine from Puerto Rico to New York, Gomez received a 4-year prison sentence. Fernando Gomez was accused by the prosecution of working with a drug trafficking organization infamous for killing its rivals and infiltrating the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration in 2011. Gomez admitted guilt last year to selling weapons to a prolific cocaine trafficker while employed as an Evanston police officer. Gomez, a former U.S. Marine, sobbed in federal court in Manhattan and apologized for his poor judgment, which he claimed resulted from his mistaken attempts to defend family members who were engaged in the drug trade. "The government wants you to make an example out of me," he told the judge. "I'm not that example. I wasn't running around like a cowboy with a badge." Judge Jesse Furman stated that the agent's repentance touched him, but he also remarked that Gomez's violation of his badge had left a stain on the Drug Enforcement Administration and all of law enforcement. Gomez was expected to serve at least 7 years in prison under federal sentence guidelines. However, the judge argued that considering Gomez's public service and cooperation with the investigation, a sentence that long would be unfair. That's it, guys. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. For more videos like this, subscribe to this channel. Bye!